everyone. I hope that you can see me, and I hope that I'm actually in the right place right now, because I tried to do this inside of our inside of our event group, but I didn't see the option there. So here I am, and I'm going to get started so that those of you who are watching the replay don't have to sit through all of this. Thank you for joining. Okay, great, Kay. Thanks for letting me know. So thanks for joining me tonight or for the replay. Passive income is our theme this month in the Rising Tide Society. And in this session, I'm going to be sharing ways that you can diversify your income streams. My goal is to help you identify the areas of your business that are untapped so that you can start bringing in more money each month without needing to do more work. And I'm not even going to ask if that sounds good because, of course it does. Who doesn't want to make more money? So before we get started, I have a little workbook that I created for everyone that you can download and use throughout this session and beyond. And I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat. And this is not like an opt-in, it'll go directly to my Dropbox, so you can just save it to your computer. And it is also fillable if you open it up using Adobe Reader, which is also a free download. Let me just make sure I sent you to the right link because I also have, yes, okay. All right, if you're having any trouble accessing that or if it doesn't look like the right thing, please let me know. So this is not a topic that I typically speak on, but I knew that I was going to have a lot to say because the nature of my business is very diverse. My name is Michelle Hickey, and I am a creative who does many different things. At the moment, I consider myself to be a graphic designer, an educator, a writer, speaker, podcaster, and content creator. My college degree says graphic design on it, and that is how I began my career. I come from a family who is very traditional, and I never considered trying anything other than just getting a 9-to-5 job after I graduated. And I'm always interested in hearing backstories. So while I continue with mine, I would love to hear from yours. I don't know if anyone other than Kay is here, but Kay, if you want to let me know kind of where you're coming from in terms of was your family more entrepreneurial minded, or did you grow up with a more conventional view of working, like a one job, one source of income type situation? So I did the 9-to-5 thing for about 4 years, and I worked at 2 different companies as an art assistant in magazine publishing. And then in 2009, in a year that in so many ways feels like 2020, the stock market crashed and I lost my job. And I thought about how my family always told me that it was better to have a full-time position because it was more stable. But after getting let go from my job, I looked at my husband, to whom I had been married for less than a year, and I looked around our house, a house that we had just purchased and could barely afford. And I said to him, this doesn't really feel stable. And if this year, 2020, has taught us anything, it's that nothing is guaranteed. There is no such thing as a stable job or a sure thing. It is a fallacy. And thankfully, I learned this early on, but I kind of learned it by accident. Don't think that I didn't try to find another 9-to-5 job because I absolutely looked. But in the meantime, I began freelancing part-time because we still had to pay that mortgage. And in that first year of unemployment, I brought in more money from my freelancing gigs than from my full-time position. But the real kicker was I was working half the hours, and suddenly I had all of this time on my hands to start dabbling creatively. And by this point, I had already designed custom wedding invitations for my own wedding, and I had started to design them for family members and close friends. And then my family and my friends started to recommend me to their friends, and my wheels started turning. And I thought, okay, maybe wedding invitations could be my new full-time job. While I continued to freelance, I began to build out my custom wedding invitations business. This was before Pinterest, before the Rising Tide Society, but blogs like Style Me Pretty were just starting to become mainstream. So the wedding industry was really starting to boom online. And I began connecting with other wedding professionals in my area. I was still freelancing, but it became my mission to stop doing that so that I could give all of my attention to my invitations business and so that I could put all of my eggs in one basket. And I want to know if this sounds familiar to you guys. Did you come from or kind of follow a similar path as I did? Were you working a full-time or a freelance job while trying to build the business that you run today? Or are you currently in the process of trying to make that transition? And while you guys are sharing in the chat, I'm going to wrap up my story here. In 2013, my husband and I moved from our home in the Northeast, obviously still hanging on to a little bit of my New York accent here, to Florida. And everyone here in our Tuesdays Together group who works in the wedding industry knows how important it is to be connected to people who live in your area. And I didn't know anyone here when I first moved here, and I felt like I had to kind of start over. But this became another blessing in disguise because it made me take a step back. And I started thinking about how much time and effort went into each of my invitation clients because I was making those fancy layered invitations that needed to be constructed by hands. And while I really liked the design part of it, the construction part, I truly hated. But there was another part of that business that wasn't working for me. Like many of you guys who plan weddings or photograph weddings know that when that is your business model, you're limited as to how many clients you can take on each year, which means that your potential for income has a ceiling. So this is when I got really creative. I realized that while I didn't have any local contacts in Florida at the time, I did have this giant portfolio of wedding invitation designs that were already done. They were just basically gathering dust. And so I thought, what if I put some of those up on Etsy and I sell them in a new way as a print yourself design, which meant that no construction was needed for me, which I was very happy about. So this became passive income, selling work that was already done to an infinite amount of people, an infinite amount of times. And that moment for me was like pushing over a domino. In the next part of this presentation, I'm going to walk you through the structure that I use to diversify my income using those invitations as my core offering. And if you're not an invitation designer, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how you can apply this same structure to whatever it is that you do. And I'm going to start referencing that guide that I created for you. So now is the time to take that out. And if you're just joining and you haven't downloaded it yet, I'll share the link one more time in the comments. You're going to see that this is, I accidentally named the title of the PDF the wrong thing, but it is applicable to you guys. So here it is again, no opt-in or anything. You should just be able to download it directly to your computer. And Crystal, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you can definitely relate to what it feels like to move to a new place and then like have to start over again. So we're going to start with step one, which is the easiest step, and that is to identify your core offering. This is basically like, what do you do for your job? So are you a wedding photographer, or are you a wedding planner? Do you design websites? Are you a calligrapher, or do you do hair and makeup, or are you a floral designer, or anything else? Fill in the blank. Whether you are a product or a service-based business, you have content to work with. And content is the key to passive income. Step 2 is to do some creative brainstorming like I did, and think about some of the ways that you can repurpose your hard work or your content. And remember that they are one and the same. Your offering should be something that can be sold an infinite number of times with little or no work from you. And I've provided you with some passive product ideas in your workbook. I did my best, obviously not being completely wise to all of your different things that you guys do. Step 3 is to create a free version of that product. So here's what I did with my wedding invitations business. In addition to selling my invitations on Etsy, I began to take some of my wedding designs and share them as free printable downloads on my blog. And I have a link to an example of one of these posts from back in the day in your workbook, but I'll also add it here to the chat. There we go. This is from my old blog, which still exists, but it's not super active. And step 4 is awesome. Step 4 is to find income sources in sharing your free content. So that one act, that one decision that I made to start sharing free principles on my blog opens up new streams of income for me in the following ways. Number 1, it increased traffic to my site, which in turn brought in more ad revenue. Number 2, it began bringing in affiliate income through links that I shared in these blog posts. Number 3, I didn't do this right away, which you can see in that post that I just shared, but later on I wised up and I began requiring an email opt-in in order to obtain the free downloads that I was sharing in these posts, which meant that I was also growing my email list and increasing my opportunities to make sales in my shop. Number 4, you can see in this post that I'm using Avery products. I was using them frequently because it was just such an easy fit for printable designs. And if you're not familiar with Avery, they're the company who make labels and stickers, etc. So Avery took notice of my work, which was awesome because I didn't even have to reach out to them. And I ended up forming a partnership with them in which they sponsored posts just like that one that I shared. So basically what I was already doing, but no extra effort, just extra income. And I'm gonna share a link here to a sponsored post so you can see that it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, just drop that into the comments. And the 5th way that I began generating more income through these blog posts was in addendum to their sponsorship. Avery also began licensing some of my designs to share on their site. So even though I am no longer in this partnership, this was a few years ago, I still continue to generate income from these posts through ad and affiliate revenue. Additionally, I essentially have made my partnership with Avery a portfolio piece. So when I am pitching to other brands, I can show them examples of content that I have created in working with a high-profile company. So let's talk about you guys, because obviously my core offering lends itself very well to this structure, but what happens if your core offering is something that is truly service-based, like hair or makeup? Because you can't exactly give away a free updo on your blog. Or could you? I'm going to walk you through basically what I would do if I were a hairstylist. So first thing is I would get one of those diva lights and a phone mount. And every time I was doing a client's hair, I'd just hit that record button and I would talk through the process and create a real-time tutorial from beginning to end. There's a great app that I use. It's called Descript, which I link to in your workbook, that transcribes your video and audio content. So I would take that exact transcript and make that the text for your blog post. And I would include a recording of the tutorial video and then add affiliate links to all of the products that I use in the tutorial. Even though you have the option of selling something, you don't have to sell, because many businesses make money simply by giving away free content and then supporting their efforts with sponsorships and affiliate income. What I want for you guys to take away from this example isn't to follow these exact steps, but to start noticing some of the ways that you can take what you are already doing and repurposing it for consumption. You'll notice that I didn't say set up this whole elaborate filming situation and like write a script and hire a model. You don't need to do that. Most people prefer to see something that is real and genuine, and those things do not take a lot of effort. I also want to point out that if you guys aren't currently using affiliate marketing, it is, in my opinion, the easiest and most organic way to generate passive income. I recommend finding a niche affiliate program based on whatever it is that you do in your work. I think that you'll find a lot more success that way versus using one of these general sites, which I did give you a bunch of examples of in your workbook. But as an example, for me, I have made most of my affiliate income through font sales because I have a lot of people who come to my sites looking for design tips. So that was like a good fit for me. But I do also use more general affiliate programs. I use Reward Style, which you guys have probably seen all over Instagram. Anyway, I included a link to that along with some other affiliate networks in your workbook. So let's go back to our fictitious hairstylist blog for a minute. So they have a video set up, they have a blog post, and another thing that I would add to that is I would create a checklist of 10 things that you need to do when you're doing an updo or whatever hairstyle you're doing, and then include that as a free download through an email opt-in. And again, this shouldn't feel like a chore or like a whole new project or that you have to create more work for yourself. This can be something that you do in 15 minutes. You can take that transcribed content in the blog post and basically convert it into a list. So it is the same content just presented in a different way. And I also wanted to mention right now, since I do consider this to be one of my areas of expertise, if you don't have an email system up and running, on the second page of your workbook, I included a link to my free course on how to get started with email marketing. And it is truly free. There's no sales pitch attached to it or anything like that. It's just something that I created to help my students at the beginning of quarantine, and I just decided to make it available to everyone for free. So definitely recommend going through that if you don't have any kind of email marketing system in place yet. So when you're thinking about diversifying your income streams, it is not about creating more content, but using everything that you have in as many ways as makes sense for you. Because you've worked hard to create your content, and now it's time to make it work for you. So the next step for our hairstylist would be to tag all of the brands that are showcased in this blog post, and the same would go for any kind of social post. So tag them on Instagram, tag them wherever you post, and then also send them an email to let them know that they have been featured on your site. And if you continually do this, over time you will position yourself as an ambassador for that brand. And doors will start to open up for you in the way that they did for me when I worked with Avery. It was all very organic. I mentioned to you in the beginning, I didn't even reach out to them. They reached out to me, which was really cool. And if and when you connect with brands, those partnerships can come in the form of them sending you free stuff or a sponsorship opportunity or being featured on their channels, which in turn gives your business a boost and allows you to raise your prices, which is another benefit to doing all of this. When you create content, it can be reworked, remixed, repurposed, and continue to serve you in infinite ways. And once you have the foundation of content in place, if you want to take things to the next level, you can expand your offerings to include things like memberships, courses, or use your expertise to speak and present, but only if you want to. The positive in diversifying your income is that there are truly infinite possibilities. But sometimes when we have too many options, we get overwhelmed, and then that leads to inaction or burnout, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid by doing passive income. So as you guys embark on exploring passive income streams, I'd like to encourage you to embrace what I call an abundance mindset. And this is the belief that there are infinite possibilities available to you. And when you operate from that place, which is really a place of confidence, it'll help you to pick and choose the opportunities that best suit you, your business, and your lifestyle. In your workbook, in the bottom left-hand corner of the second page, you'll find a link to a book that I highly recommend to help you harness this way of thinking, and it's called Essentialism. And I consider it to be the ultimate guide in adopting that mentality of less is more. You don't have to do everything. In fact, I would encourage you to do as little as possible, because that is the point of passive income, right? It's to not work. So you may be sitting here and watching this and thinking, all right, Michelle, tell me which one of these things works best. So like, should I do affiliate marketing, or should I create a course, or should I become a speaker? All of those work best. Every single business idea or structure has a track record of working, but it's only going to work for you if you're comfortable with what you're doing. Part of diversifying income is about leaning into the things that you do best and what you enjoy doing, and then doubling down on those efforts. So if you love teaching and you want to create a course, but you are afraid of getting on camera, then just don't get on camera. You can use slides or something else. There is always a creative alternative available that will allow you to be you. Or if you aren't very tech savvy and blogging sounds like a big headache to you, then just use social media. The success of your diversified income really depends on you doing what you do best. If you're watching this and you're in this group, you are talented. You are a creative person. Your possibilities are infinite. Your opportunities are infinite. So you might as well do what you love. Oh, hey, Brooke. Brooke is backing me up on this. Do you. Do what works best for you. So I want to end this session by encouraging you to take action after this is complete. Use the workbook that I've shared to help you pinpoint the best passive income strategies for your business. Not someone else's, just yours. In this presentation, I have kind of glossed over a lot of things and painted this picture that my business growth has been fluid. But the reality is there were a lot of ups and downs. I experimented, I failed, I learned, I grew, and I am still growing and learning. So as with everything that you do, as you're exploring these passive income streams, extend yourself grace, have patience, and do not be afraid to ask for help, which I feel like is a perfect transition into Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them here. It looks like we only have about 6 people watching. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can feel free to either, I guess, leave them in these comments and I'll get notified and I can come back into the chat to answer them, or you can send them to me via email. I'll add my email into the chat here. And I've also included my contact info in your workbook, so you guys will know where to find me. Okay, I think that is spelled correctly. All right, there's my email in the chat. I'll hang out for another few minutes. Does anyone have any questions about passive income? I'm more than happy to kind of run through what something like this might look like for your business. I talked about mine and how I set things up as an invitation designer. I gave you the example of what I would do if I were a hairstylist, but the beauty of this group is we have so many different industries that have come together. So I'm happy to help you figure out yours. Again, I'm obviously not an expert in every area, but I like to think I'm an expert in creative thinking. Okay, Kay is a personal branding photographer. So Kay, if you're looking at your workbook, I would recommend for you what I would recommend for, same thing for like a wedding photographer. And that would be now again, you guys are gonna know the specifics on this, but I'm just gonna throw this out there as an idea. Anytime you're working with a client, I would add something into the contract and obviously make sure that they're okay with it. You're not trying to trick anyone here. That would allow you to use some of those photos and to reuse them for something like either selling them as stock photos or setting up a stock photo library. And actually, Brooke, I'm glad you're here because I feel like you may have, maybe I'm mistaken about this, but I feel like you may have done something like this before with a friend of ours who's a photographer. But that was kind of the first thing that came to mind for photographers is just add something to your contract that would allow you to use a portion of the photos, things that like don't show people's faces, things like hands and objects, that you can either sell as stock photos in a library as one-off images, or as like art prints that you can sell, like I sell things in my Etsy shop. So that would be just my little suggestion for photography. Hey Trot, moving to Jax in December and your hubby wants you to get a real job. Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I'll say this. At the beginning of this presentation, in case you missed like the beginning of my story, I talked about how I was freelancing and then I decided that I wanted to do this wedding invitations business full time. And now I realize that that wasn't the smartest thing. And thankfully I kept that freelance job and I still have it today, 10 plus years later, because it's easy money and it's consistent money. And I always encourage my students to find something that pays the bills so that you can pursue your creative endeavors. So if your husband is pressuring you to get a full-time job, what I would recommend is to find something that will allow you to do your photography business if you feel like I don't know your situation. I don't know if you're just getting started. But if you are just getting started and you feel like you need something to supplement it, I would encourage you to do that. But I don't think that it necessarily has to be full time. Okay, Crystal has been struggling with this because she does permanent makeup aside from bridal services. Crystal, using my little hairstyle example, I'm wondering if you could do something like that with your makeup business. When the next time you're working with a makeup client, could you just hit record on your phone, put up a little, diva light and record the process, and then begin sharing that content either on a blog or on your social feeds? I keep talking about blogging. I know that I'm kind of like old school, old. I know I'm not old, but in the scheme of like the internet, I did start blogging on the earlier ends, and I know that blogging really has evolved a lot since then, but I still feel like having a blog is really beneficial because it allows you to do all of these things that you can't exactly do on social media, which is obviously ranking, using SEO so that Google will know who you are, but also you can't really add affiliate links as easily on social media. I know that there are ways around it, but especially like, with Instagram stories, you have to have a certain amount of followers in order to use swipe up and all of that. So the reason I keep recommending blogging is because there are just infinite possibilities for you to generate income that becomes passive. Hi, Camilla, portrait and brand photographer. I would, again, recommend the same thing. See if there is a way for you to use photos that you've already shot or kind of make it your policy going forward, that you can use those in other ways. So you don't have to set up whole new shoots. Okay, Brooke is asking, sorry guys, I'm just getting caught up with this. If you're not sure where to start as a business owner, what is the best zone to start in? Oh, meaning, Brooke, if I'm understanding you right, you're asking if you don't have a business yet, where would you start? I would start with figuring out what you love, because that's, in my opinion, like the best way to build a business, because then it doesn't feel so much like work. You're always going to be motivated because we are inherently motivated to do the things that naturally drive us. Yep, I'm all caught up. You're welcome, everyone. I know this is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, but I'm hopeful that workbook I provided you with will help you kind of like go through these steps a little bit more slowly. And as you're going through them, if you feel like you see something that you don't understand, or you want to brainstorm with someone, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to chat and do that with you. Does anyone else have any other questions? And it doesn't have to be about passive income or diversifying your income. It can be about anything. All right, well, I'm not seeing anyone else chatting, so I think I'm going to end this live video. Again, please reach out to me if I can help with anything, and use that workbook and take action. And I'm going to go through these and make sure, hopefully I'm ending this in the right way. All right, I think I got this. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.